The sun had not yet reached its peak, but the earth was already burning hot beneath their bare feet. The red soil of Yumukar village cracked like roasted ground nuts, dry and unforgiving after a long week without rain. The stream, their only water source, lay deep in the forest, winding between tall irako trees and whispering bamboo groves. It was a sacred place, believed to be watched by unseen spirits, yet familiar to every maiden in the village who had grown up carrying water pots balanced on their heads like crowns of clay. Amaka, Ifyananya, and Nina were among them. 3 girls, close in age but different in heart, walked side by side that afternoon, giggling like girls do when secrets are shared. Their pots were full, and the gurgling of water echoed softly in rhythm with their steps. They were beautiful in their own way. Amaka with her sharp chin and bold eyes, Ifyananya, the tallest, with skin the color of roasted palm kernel and lips always ready to pout, and Nina, whose laughter came gently, like a stream flowing over smooth stones. They had grown up together in Yumukar, attending the same village school, learning to pound yam and grind pepper on stone slabs, whispering about boys under mango trees. But things had changed. They were no longer children. Marriage was near, and so was competition. Every village girl knew that the upcoming Egwu, the royal dance festival, was not just a celebration of the gods. It was the moment the prince would choose a bride. A silent race had begun. "Did you see the way Obina looked at me during last week's market day?" Ifyananya asked, tossing her head. "He even bought me groundnuts without me asking." Amaka rolled her eyes. "He looked at all of us. Men's eyes are like the wind. They blow wherever the wrapper lifts." Nina laughed softly. Maybe he just wanted groundnuts. They were nearing the bend in the path when they saw him. A young man, sitting by the roadside. Dust clung to his hair like ashes. His clothes, faded and torn, hung from his body like rags that had fought too many battles with the bush. His feet were bare, lips dry, and his eyes, sunken and searching, lifted as they approached. "Please," he said in a hoarse voice, "may I have some water?" The girls paused. Amaka was the first to speak. "There's a stream down the path. You can find your own water there." Ifyananya sniffed. "Do we look like your servants?" He did not reply, only looked at them with tired eyes. "Let's go," Amaka said. "Stray men like this are always pretending. Before you know it, he'll ask for food too." But Nina lingered. She looked at the young man again, the way he sat in the dust, proud yet broken, like a king who had forgotten his throne. Something about him tugged at her chest, a whisper she could not explain. Without a word, she stepped forward, lifted her pot gently, and poured some water into her small calabash cup. She knelt and handed it to him. He took it with trembling hands. "Thank you," he said, and for the briefest second, their eyes met. Something passed between them, not a smile, not a word, but something ancient and soft. The other girls hissed. "Nina, come on." She stood and walked away, her heart beating louder than the birds overhead. Behind her, the stranger drank and smiled. The days that followed seemed ordinary, yet something in the air had shifted. In Yumukar, nothing stayed secret for long. The villagers had ears like old clay pots, cracked but deep, and tongues that never tired. By the next evening, whispers began to trickle like palm wine at a feast. "Did you hear? A poor wanderer sat by the stream path. 3 maidens passed, but only one gave him water. Ah, these are the signs of the gods. A test, maybe." The elders, seated beneath the ancient aji tree at the village square, stroked their beards and muttered among themselves. And the women at the market, slicing okra and haggling over goat meat, repeated the tale with wide eyes. Everyone was curious, but none knew the full truth. Only Nina, Amaka, and Ifyananya had seen him, and they kept their silence, though for different reasons. Amaka and Ifyananya were angry. "That girl always wants to act like she's better than us," Amaka grumbled one evening as they walked back from the farm. "Giving water to a beggar like she's the queen of kindness. She did it to impress someone," Ifyananya added, her tone sour. "Maybe she's hoping people will notice her before the dance festival." Amaka snorted. "Let's see how far sympathy will carry her. No prince wants a soft-hearted fool." But Nina wasn't thinking about the festival or even the other girls. She couldn't stop thinking about the man. His face haunted her, those weary eyes that held too much silence, the way he had said thank you as though it carried weight. She had looked for him the next day and the next. The path by the stream remained empty. No footprints, no trace. It was as though he had vanished into the air. Meanwhile, in the royal palace of Yumukar, beyond the carved wooden gates and guarded compound, Prince Abadike removed his disguise. His attendants rushed to wipe the dust from his skin and dress him in fine wrappers. A servant fanned him, while another brought a bowl of warm water laced with herbs to cleanse his feet. But the prince waved them away. "Leave me." The room emptied in moments, leaving him alone in the silence of his chamber. He sat before the wooden mirror, an heirloom passed down by kings. Yet he saw not the future monarch of Yumukar, but the dusty traveler who had tasted kindness for the first time in a long while. He smiled. "Her name is Nena," he said softly to his reflection. He had known it before she spoke. He'd heard it whispered once at a market, when she walked past with a basket of aqua and a shy smile. Her name stayed with him like the scent of rain on dry earth. Abadike was not just testing the village girls for fun. His father, King Nwokiaka, had grown weak in his bones and weary in his voice. The time to pass on the staff of rulership was near. But before doing so, the king had one condition. "You must choose a wife," the old king had said, leaning heavily on his walking stick. "Not just any wife. A woman of heart, not face. A woman who sees the soul of a man before she sees his crown." So Abadike disguised himself. He walked among the people, sat in the dust, begged for water. The gods would show him his path, and his bride would reveal herself through her actions, not her dance steps. And now, he had found her. But the test was not yet complete. The festival approached, and tradition demanded that every maiden would dance before the prince under the full moon. The drums would speak, the fire would burn, and the prince would choose. Only then could his heart speak aloud. Back in the village, preparations for the Egwu Akpu began with feverish excitement. Tailors worked long hours under flickering lanterns, stitching wrappers with gold thread. Young girls practiced their steps by the riverside, swirling and spinning, imagining the prince's eyes on them. Ifeananya braided her hair with fresh cowries and rubbed camwood on her skin until it glowed. Amaka visited the Dibia's wife, who gave her special herbs to rub on her legs so she would dance like lightning. But Nena stayed quiet. She did not ask for anything. She spent her evenings helping her mother roast yams and listening to old folk tales from her blind grandfather. She practiced her dance alone, in the backyard, under the moonlight when no one was watching. Her steps were soft, not proud. Her joy came from within. The night before the festival, a strange wind blew through Yumukar. Chickens refused to sleep. The village dogs howled without reason. Elders tossed in their hammocks, unable to rest. And the moon, round and red like a drum, watched everything in silence. Something was coming. Something none of them expected. Yumukar had not seen a night like this in many moons. From the break of dawn, the village buzzed like a hive of restless bees. Children were bathed in cold water, scrubbed behind the ears with black soap and aji leaves. Mothers tied coral beads around their daughters' wrists, while fathers carved new walking sticks to lean on with pride. The elders, in their thick red caps and chalked foreheads, moved from compound to compound, chanting blessings and invoking the spirits of the land. It was Egwu Akpu, the festival of dance, and tonight, a prince would choose his queen. By evening, the sky turned a deep indigo, as if it too had dressed for the occasion. Smoke curled up from hundreds of cooking fires. The aroma of roasted goat, spiced snails, and jollof rice floated through the air, mingling with the sound of laughter and the metallic clink of cowries exchanging hands. In the village square, a wide, open field surrounded by thatched huts and ancient irako trees, torches were planted in a great circle, their flames licking the night. At the center stood the royal stool, carved from sacred akpu tree wood and polished with oil until it shone like black glass. A massive wooden gong lay beside it, silent for now, waiting for the moment that would wake its voice. The villagers gathered early. Some brought stools. Others sat on folded mats. The youngest children clung to their mothers, their eyes wide with wonder. Even the birds seemed to hush. Behind the crowd, in a shaded enclosure lined with raffia mats and colored cloths, the maidens prepared. There were 30 of them, each a daughter of Yumukar. They wore wrappers of shimmering ankara, beads that danced on their necks, and anklets that jingled softly when they moved. Their hair was woven into towering styles, crowned with peacock feathers, white chalk, and pride. Among them were Amaka and Ifeanyi. Amaka wore red and gold, her waist tied with charms given to her by a herbalist from the next village. Her smile was sharp, like the edge of a new knife. Ifeanyi glistened in deep blue, her body oiled until she looked like river water. She held her chin high, convinced that this was her night. "Let him come and see," she whispered. "The prince will never forget me." And then there was Nina. She stood quietly in a corner, dressed in soft green with a simple rope of ivory beads on her neck. Her feet were bare. She carried no magic, no perfume, no charms. Only her calm spirit and a prayer in her heart. The sound of the udu drum broke the stillness. Dum dum dum. The people straightened. Heads turned. Even the palm trees seemed to lean closer. Then came the ekwe, fast and firm, calling the night to attention. And finally, the oja flute rose like a bird in flight, sweet, high-pitched, and wild. It sang the song of Ymukur, the ancient melody of lineage and destiny. A voice rang out, "O sons and daughters of Ymukur, let the prince come forward." The crowd parted like a river, making way for a boat. And there he was, Prince Abadike, tall, shoulders broad, with skin the color of freshly tapped palm wine and eyes that held both storm and stillness. He was dressed in white wrappers embroidered with silver threads. A red cap sat firmly on his head. An eagle feather stood behind his left ear. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mothers nudged their daughters. Young men stared in admiration. The prince walked with quiet power and took his place on the royal stool. He did not smile. He simply nodded. The dance began. One by one, the maidens stepped into the circle. The drummers watched each girl with sharp eyes, their rhythms rising and falling to match her steps. Anklets rattled, hips swayed, feet stamped the earth in practiced motion. Amaka danced with fire. She leaped and spun, her arms slicing the air like machetes. The crowd cheered. "You, that one can fly." Ifeanyi followed, her movements graceful and slow, like a python in the grass. She flicked her wrists and winked at the prince. Some elders whispered to each other, "This one knows what she wants." Then it was Nina's turn. She stepped forward slowly, the firelight flickering on her skin. The drums softened, as if they too were holding their breath. She did not dance like the others. She moved like a leaf carried by the wind. Every gesture, every step, spoke of gentleness, humility, and an inner joy no rapper could hold. Her body told a story, of rivers and kindness, of dusty roads and shared water, of eyes that met and hearts that remembered. The square fell silent. Even the night paused to listen. When her dance ended, she bowed deeply to the prince and stepped back. Abadike's chest rose. He stood and lifted the eagle feather from his head. A hush swept over the village like harmattan dust. Everyone knew what the feather meant. It was the sign of choice. The prince would place it on the maiden he wished to marry. He walked past Amaka, past Ifeanyi. Both girls blinked in confusion. Then, before all of Ymukur, before the gods and the spirits and the living and the unborn, he stopped in front of Nina and placed the eagle feather in her hair. There was silence, then shouting, clapping, cheers. A woman screamed. Children jumped. The village exploded in sound. Some ululated. Some cried. Some stood frozen, mouths open like fish gasping on dry land. Amaka's hands trembled. Ifeanyi looked like she had been slapped by the wind. But Nina stood still, her eyes wide, her heart thundering. She could barely breathe. Prince Abadike reached for her hand. "I know you," he said softly, "even before I wore my crown." And she knew. The dusty traveler. The thirsty stranger. The prince. It had always been him. Ymukur did not sleep that night. Even after the last drum had gone quiet and the fire reduced to glowing coals, the village square buzzed with voices. Old men argued under trees, young women whispered behind huts, and children ran around in circles, repeating what they had seen. The prince chose her. Nina, that quiet one. The water girl. The one who helped the stranger. She will be queen. But in the corners of the village, not everyone celebrated. Amaka sat alone behind her mother's compound, still wrapped in her golden festival cloth, now stained with dust and shame. Her face was streaked with tears, though she kept her back straight and chin lifted, as if her pride could protect her from the blow. "I gave everything," she whispered into the darkness. "I danced like fire. I was perfect. She ripped off the charm tied around her waist and flung it into the bush. Far away, Ifyinanya lay curled in her mother's hut, sobbing into her wrapper. How? How did she win? She didn't even try. Neither of them slept. But Nina did. She slept soundly for the first time in many weeks, in a small corner of the palace, where a clean mat had been laid just for her. Her wrapper was now of royal cotton, and soft cowries decorated her hair. Yet she remained the same Nina, gentle, quiet, and grateful. The prince visited her early the next morning, before the sun fully stretched across the sky. You are not here because of beauty or charm, he said as they sat beneath the royal Udala tree. You are here because you gave water. Nina smiled faintly. I didn't know who you were. I know. That's why it meant something. They sat in silence for a while, watching birds fly above the palace walls. For the first time, both felt the weight of what was ahead: rulership, expectations, jealousy, and trials. But they also felt something more powerful: peace. That week, a great feast was held in honor of Nina's coronation as bride of the future king. Masquerades danced. The royal gong sounded across hills and valleys. Visitors came from neighboring villages, bringing gifts of kola, yam, and cloth. The king himself blessed the union, lifting Nina's hands before the crowd. My son has chosen wisely, he said. The gods watch from above, and they are pleased. But even as the village danced and rejoiced, stories began to grow, as stories do in every place where dust touches skin and hearts remember. They said a poor man once sat by the road, asking for water. They said many passed, but only one stopped, and that the girl who gave him water became queen. Years passed. Nina grew into her role with quiet strength. She did not forget her roots. She often walked barefoot around the palace gardens. She made sure water pots were filled not just for her, but for the maids and guards. And every month, she visited the stream, alone, without guards, and poured a calabash of fresh water onto the earth in remembrance. If not for water, she would whisper, I would still be forgotten. As for Amaka and Ifyinanya, life moved on. Slowly, quietly. They eventually married, not to princes, but to good men. They bore children and tilled the soil. But whenever they passed the palace gates, they looked away. Not because they were bitter anymore, but because they remembered. One choice had changed everything. And so, the tale lived on in Yamukar. Parents told it to their children. Elders told it around fires. The tale of a simple act. The tale of the girl who gave water. The tale of kindness. And how kindness became a crown.